Hi, this is Carol Hunter, the Money Mender, and I'm so glad to be back with you on day number 2 for our Be Free by 2020 challenge. And listen, the fact that you're actually here on day 2, it really speaks volumes about your sincerity and your seriousness with moving into a life of freedom as we move out of one decade into the other decade. So I'm super excited about that. And I want to go ahead and say this because I know day 1 was probably a little challenging. And anytime a money freedom reality check is initiated, it provokes a lot of emotion. And the top 3 emotions that I have seen in my last 3 decades of being a money mender, a money coach, a money mentor are fear, shame, and unforgiveness. Those are the top 3 that I see anytime a money reality check has taken place, and it really causes you to come into a place of authenticity with your money story, with your money reality. And so those emotions are provoked as a result of that because they've been lying dormant oftentimes. And so on day 2, that's what I want to spend some conversation around, facing your money fears, because at some point you've got to face the money fears. Otherwise, you will remain stuck, and that's what we want to deal with, because fear is very real. But I believe if you have information and answers, instruction and guidance on some things that you can do to work through the money fears, I believe that your life will be so much better, so much more peaceful by the end of this Be Free by 2020 challenge. I promise you, I've got you. So you're going to be fine. So go ahead and press through the pain points, press through the tears, the frustration, or even the joy of just having a reality check about where you are. Let's just work through it, have a great time doing it, and keep moving forward, okay? So let's talk about facing your money fears a little bit. So I've written down some notes, and whenever I ask the question of any client that I'm working with or any mentee, when I ask the question, so what is it that caused you to allow your finances to stay in an unfavorable or a healthy state for, whatever length of time? And notoriously, the answer is, I'm afraid to deal with it. I'm scared. I have fear about, doing something. And so, fear paralyzes. It causes you to be stuck. And so let's talk about what that statement really means. I'm afraid to deal with it. There are several things. One, it could mean I am afraid to contact my creditors because if I do, they will start harassing me for money that I don't have. And then what? Well, the reason that that's challenging for you is because of a lack of personal financial literacy or financial education. Because when you understand the language that your creditor wants to engage with you, then there is no fear about that. And so you know how to respond. In my Debt Free Forever book, I have a book called Debt Free Forever, and inside of that book, there are some letters that I have written that you can use to work through your financial issues. And one of them is called a ladder of restoration. And what that does is provide the language for you so that you can set up payment arrangements and get back into a good standing with your creditor. So you let the ladder speak for you. You let the ladder start the conversation when you don't know what to do. You let your help start the conversation. Or another one could be, I'm afraid my financial habits will have to change. Well, what does that mean? Change. Change is the one thing that most people resist, but it's the one thing that's also constant in all of our lives. And so while you need to change some things as it relates to your finances, you don't want to change some things. So it's like, if I have to change, then what? How am I going to operate in my new normal if I change from the financial behavior that I've been operating in all these years of my life? And so that also is what people mean when they say, I'm afraid to deal with it. I'm afraid of change. I'm afraid of my creditors. Also, because no one has ever taught me how to manage my money, well, I have no basic skills in terms of money management. So therefore, I don't have the confidence or the courage to change. So again, I'm fearful because we don't know what we don't know. But when we know, then the game changes. And so you're fearful of the fact that, you become an adult and no one ever taught you how to manage money, or, perhaps you're in a marital situation and your spouse is the type of spouse that lords over you, or maybe is a hoarder with money, or on the other hand, is a hyper consumer. So you're trying to do the right thing with the money, but then if you're, connected to a partner who's a hyper consumer, it could go either way. And so that brings on fear, because even if that person is not a good money manager, you don't have the skill set or the confidence or the courage to have those conversations. Another one is, I'm too embarrassed or ashamed to just deal with my situation. There is just so much. It's so out of control. It's so over the top. It's just bigger than life. I'm too embarrassed to even confront the fact that I know that it's in this situation. And I don't even really remember how I got here. I just know one day I woke up and I realized that my reality check, or yesterday when I was working through the questions with my money reality check, I realized, dear God, what in the world happened to me? When did this happen? When did I go to sleep on my finances? Or it could be, I do really well for a while, but ultimately I slip back into my old financial behaviors. I can't seem to develop a route to do the right thing, to do the thing that I need to do. So I'm just scared to even try again. That's paralyzing. That's fear. But that's fear centered around your creditors and just your money dis-ease, your lack of. But what about if your fear is on the other end of the spectrum? It's not so much about credit and debt and things like that, but you have fear from another end of the spectrum. And so it could be, I am afraid I am going to outlive my money. Now for women, let me just say, women all over the world, wherever you're listening to me from, whether it's the USA or, the UK or another country, the number one thing that women need for security is financial peace. That's our number one thing. It's often said that the number one thing that a man desires is sexual pleasure. Well, for women, it is financial security. I'm a woman, so I can attest to that. When the money is not right, we don't like that. And so, you're afraid that you're going to outlive your money. Now what? You didn't plan properly and you're getting up in life. For those of you that are younger, take heed to what I'm saying, because you have the opportunity to self-correct at a much younger age. As you get older, the self-correcting window, it gets shorter. And so while doing something is better than doing nothing at all, the longer you have to self-correct, the better. So, that's extremely problematic for baby boomers, those that were born, I believe it's between 1946 and 1964. So I'm in that window. I'm on the latter end of the baby boomer generation. So in the United States of America, for example, if you were born in 1960, your full retirement age is 67. I'm not trying to work until I'm 67 for somebody else. I will work for myself indefinitely, but I'm not, it was never my plan to be employed by somebody else until age 67, only to have my income reduced to about 40% of what I was earning when I was in the workforce. And then if I didn't plan properly, that's all I have. I can't go from 100% to a 40% lifestyle and expect to be happy. So, that's a fear, especially for women, that they're going to outlive their money. In the United States of America, according to the Social Security Administration, the average lifespan of a woman is 81 years old. So even after full retirement age, for example, if it's 67, you're living almost 20 years past when you left the workforce. What are you going to do to make sure that you are okay? Another fear could be, you know, again, in the United States of America, we have to pay for pretty much everything. So all of our insurances, but as you get older, critical care insurance and life insurance and long-term care insurances are very important, but those insurances in the United States of America continue to increase as you age. So usually about every 5 years, they go up again. Now in other countries where insurance is kind of built into your system and you automatically get these things, that's not as much of an issue. But that's a fear for you if you know you need those things, but you cannot afford those things because based on your money reality check, you've gotten yourself into a situation where you can't see any light at the end of the tunnel right now. But that's temporary. That's why you're participating in the Be Free by 2020 challenge. Another thing is my parents need to move into my home with me. They're older now and I need to take care of them. I talked about this a little bit on day one, but let's just go a little bit deeper. So let's say that your parents do need to come and live with you. Your current home is not large enough for, you know, your parents and you, and if you have children and a husband, for all of you to live there right now comfortably. So the fear now is centered around, well, are we going to have to buy another house? Where's the money going to come from for that? Or we need to do a renovation to outfit the house differently so that we can accommodate everybody. We need to build out our basement or add an extension on the back of the house or add another bathroom or put in a small kitchen. I mean, what does that look like for you? And then how much money does that equate to? And then where's the fear attached to it? Where are you with the fear in all of that? Because see, these are not necessarily I can't pay my bills on time or you know, something else is going on. These are like life situations that are creating fear. And then what about the college tuition? The child wants to go to college, they're a good student, they've done well, may or may not get scholarships. Again, in the United States of America, we have to pay for college. In other countries, that's not an issue, but if you're in a country where the tuition has to be paid for, and it's not cheap to go to school anymore, especially if you're wanting to do what's called out-of-state tuition in the United States of America. It's cheaper to go to school in the state that you live in. If you want to venture outside of there, then lots of times it costs 2 to 3 times more because you are not a resident of that state. So, you know, if the truth be told, if I could just really tell the truth, at some point in life, all of us are going to face a money fear, including myself. I mean, my money fears are usually centered around business. You know, it has a lot to do with business, more so than personal, because in my personal life, everything is good. My money is where it needs to be. I've done well, so forth and so on. Even after, you know, going through a really horrific divorce, I had a nasty, ugly divorce, and it had a grave financial impact for some time. And I had to fight my way back because my ex-spouse was just really, really, really mean in our divorce. And I had to fight for my life, fight for my business, fight for my sanity, fight for everything. So it took me a minute to work through that. And so I experienced some money fears during that time. You know, it was a very expensive divorce, just money wasted in the court system when, you know, we're two educated, intelligent people. You know, we could have sat down and just worked through some of this, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to fight and said that I'd rather for the court system and the attorneys to get all of our money as opposed to you getting anything. I mean, where do they do that? That's just really crazy. And so, you know, I had to work through that. I fought my way back. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I'm capable. You know, I'm a business owner. So it is what it is. But, you know, my money fears are related to business. But because I'm a baby boomer, I also have that retirement wealth fear that comes up from time to time. And here's why it comes up for me. Not so much because I didn't plan properly, but on both sides of my family, the lifespan is around 100 years old. On my mother and my father's side of the family, the life expectancy is around 100 years. So somewhere between 95 and 100 is when we typically check out in my family, unless there was a sickness or a disease. I'm only 58 years old right now. So that means that if my family lifespan holds true for me, I've got another 42 years of life. So that means that for at least 42 more years, my wealth, my retirement wealth needs to be real good, because in reality, if I live to be 100, I've only lived half of my life at this point. So that means that my money doesn't need to run out. Right now, today, I don't have 42 years worth of money left, but what I do is make sure that with intention, my money will outlive me. I am not going to outlive my money. That is not peace. That is not freedom. That is not the good life. That is not the good old senior years. None of that will work for me. That's why I am an advocate of having a small business, because I would not ever want to be in somebody's workforce at 70 years old, but I can be the money mender until I take my last breath. I can help people work through their financial issues and build wealth and start small businesses until I don't want to do that anymore. You know, in the workforce, you can't work like that because it's a different type of work environment. So hopefully you're understanding what I'm saying, and hopefully this is helping you. So at the end of the day, money fears are very real. They are. Facing them is very real. But just because you have a money fear doesn't mean that it has to paralyze you, because fear is paralyzing. It will paralyze you. It will shut you down. And so you don't have to go through the rest of your life like that. That's why we want to be free by 2020. As I said, it's not just about the debt and all of that, but you want to be free. You want to start the next decade. When 2020 rolls around, you want to be walking into the best life ever, the best life you have ever encountered up until this point in your life. And it all starts with you and what you choose to do. So it's so important to acknowledge your money fears. You got to acknowledge them. And once you acknowledge them, take them. Take it. Take the information, run with it as if your life depended on it, and then create an action plan. Surround yourself with an action plan. Build out an action plan that is going to help you conquer your money fears. That's what you've got to do, because only you can reverse the financial paralysis that has entered into your life. I can't change that for you. All I can do is give you wisdom, give you information, give you knowledge, be a support system, but the action has to happen with you. You are the agent over your life. You hold the master key to what happens next. So I want to tell you that a financial education or financial knowledge is the absolute most effective and powerful weapon against facing your financial fears. Once you have knowledge, once you have power, the fears begin to get smaller and smaller and smaller, because education is information. And education or information empowers you with knowledge and confidence. And so, as you've heard it said, when you know better, you do better. And so when you have knowledge about your finances, you do better with your finances because of the knowledge that you have. So even though you may be scared and afraid and ashamed and embarrassed and haven't forgiven yourself right now, at some point in these 5 teachings, I want to encourage you to do that, because walking around in unforgiveness is not going to change anything. So it's time for you to self-initiate and empower yourself. Don't wait on anybody else to do it. You do it. Now, as I said, completing your money reality will empower you. It will empower you. That's why I want you to complete it. Those 25 questions are going to empower you. Well, why is that? Because it's providing an enormous amount of information for you. And so that information is going to help you overcome your money fears, because it's going to identify. I believe that the money reality check, it identifies the source and the root cause of your money fears. So if you really want to get down deep and dirty in the trenches of why you have fears about money, I promise you, if you will complete that money reality check, your answers are awaiting you. So, in an effort to help you identify your money fears and create an action plan, I've written down a couple of suggestions for you, and I wrote them down because I want to make sure that I gave them to you. So number one, I want you to begin by listing your top 2 fears. What are your top 2 money fears? Just write them down. Look at them, stare at them, acknowledge them. Make sure that you know, we've been talking about your authentic truth. I want you to be really honest. This is your thing. Nobody else has to see this but you. What are your money fears? And then number 2, why do they exist? What happened to cause these 2 things that you write down to be fears for you? What was the circumstance around it? How did it get here? Like I went through a really bad divorce. Was that the thing that shook your world to the point that you went from secure to totally devastated as it relates to your finances? And then number 3, what are 3 to 5 things you can initiate to start to alleviate the fears? 3 to 5 things, 3 to 5 action steps that you can implement to start alleviating those money fears. And number 4, so that you stay on track, I want you to give your money fears a due date for when they have to be out of your life. So even if it's all the way to the end of this year when we complete the money challenge, the Be Free by 2020 challenge, if that's your date, that's fine. If you want to have it done by the summer, if you want to have it done by Easter or Mother's Day, whatever works for you, give it a date. And then number 5, I want you to choose an accountability partner so that you'll have someone keeping you accountable. Now, it needs to be somebody you can trust, because it's going to mean that you have to enable yourself to be vulnerable, to talk about it with somebody, so that they can keep you on track, keep you on point. So let me give you an example of what those 5 suggestions would look like in reality. So I've got a couple of examples that I want to share with you quickly before you rush away and start working on your money fears. So let's say we identify the fear. So remember, we said write down a couple of things that cause you fear. So let's say the fear is that you've been getting notices that your car is going to be repossessed. So you know that they're talking about repossessing your car because your payments have been late. So why are the payments late? Well, the reason the car payments are late is because you're trying to pay for your mortgage and your car payment out of one of your 2 checks every month. You usually can't pay, depending on how much money you earn a month. It's usually a little bit more challenging to pay for the mortgage and the car payment out of the same check. So what are some action steps that you can do to alleviate the fear? Well, instead of trying to pay for your car payment and your mortgage out of your check you get at the end of the month, then what you can do is allocate 50% of each one of those payments out of each check. So let's say your car note is $200, or if you live in another country, use the monetary system that you use, and your mortgage is $1,000. So out of each check, you would take $500 and you would take $100. That means that's 50% of your mortgage and 50% of your car payment coming out of both checks. So now that takes the pressure off of that one check that's trying to accommodate $1,200 in one check, and you only bring home $1,400. So that means that at the other end of the month, you have a whole lot of money left over, but you really don't, because that's the money that you really need to pay for the other part of the month, if that makes sense. Now, another thing you can do is send a letter to the finance manager of the company that has the lien on your car as it relates to your car payment, and let them know that you're in some type of hardship, just a brief explanation, and then ask if for 6 months you could have a modified payment until you get back on your feet. Or maybe they'll just let you pay interest and put the rest of the principal on the end of the note. See, this is what I mean when I say you need financial education and financial knowledge, because you know how to do the ask. You know how to ask for what you want if you're in a situation. So then what you'll want to do is increase your personal financial education along the way to make sure that you don't end up in this situation again. If your fear is around the conversation I was having about retirement, well, you're going to write that fear down. And why is that fear there? Well, when I was younger, I mismanaged my money and I didn't do what I needed to do. And so what am I going to do to make it better? Well, I'm going to make additional contributions. I'm going to set up an annuity. I'm going to invest in the stock market. Whatever you choose to do, you've got to put an action plan in place to start annihilating the fear. So I trust that this conversation about facing your fear has encouraged you, has strengthened you, has given you the encouragement that you need to really face your fears so that you won't live another decade of your life in financial paralysis, because that's not the best life. That's not the good life. That's not the quality life. You can do this, and I believe in you. That's why I am hosting the Be Free by 2020 challenge for you, because you need some help. You need a mentor. You need a guide. You need somebody in your face. You need somebody talking to you on a regular basis. You need to do everything you need to do. If you're not connected with me on Facebook, I'm going to encourage you to connect with me on Facebook Live every Sunday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, because I'm hosting complimentary information there. It's called the Money Mender Show. It's like, put yourself in front of information as often as you can. You've got to get the financial education to change your life, and you've got to get education to overcome your money fears. So you can do this. I know you can. It may sound like a lot, and in the beginning it is a lot, because this is possibly a level you've never operated in before. But this is what people do that seriously and sincerely desire a lifestyle of money freedom. So this is your year. Be free by 2020. Don't take this challenge for granted, but let this challenge serve you in a really powerful way. I am so excited that we had this opportunity to talk about facing your fears. And so now we've got you in the mode of working on your money reality check. And now we're going to face our financial fears. And I cannot wait to join you again on day 3, where we go just a little bit higher. So thank you for joining me. I am Carol Hunter, the one and only Money Mender. Have a good one.